Hey there, folks. This is Sully with Mandelbrot LLC. Just doing a little FBA application breakdown for you. I wanted to introduce myself first. So I've been working over at Illinois Energy Windows and Siding for, 18 years now, I think. So I have done a bunch of different things for them. And about 5 years ago, even though I've been using FileMaker since somewhere around FileMaker 9, since 2006. I about 5 years ago started really trying to develop my own applications for their business. So really been working on as a developer for these guys for about 5 years. Last year I went out to DevCon. Wow, awesome stuff out in Dallas. And I came back and thought, I can't really possibly just write for these guys. I have to do more. So I started up Mandelbrot LLC about a year ago, doing a couple of different things here. So you can check out my website if you'd like. If you met me at DevCon, you probably noticed there's a squirt gun in my photo here. I go every year and I hand a few squirt guns out. So if you see me at DevCon in 2020, ask me for a squirt gun. And as long as I haven't been hit up too much before you get to me, I'll give you one. So, okay, so just to introduce the client to you, Illinois Energy, this is a solution that I put together for them. It is still in kind of beta phase. So these guys are they're looking for a way to help out their service department. Just to introduce these guys, they do about $8 million to $10 million of business every year. Most of it is done by knocking on doors around work that's already in progress. Some of it is done through the internet, and the issue that they're having is that they have, actually I can show you on their website here, Illinois Energy Difference. One thing that they do is their warranties. If you check out their website, if you read their warranties, this one is the one that has caused them the most issues. So they cover the labor and the parts for the whole life of the home, and that means that their 7-person service team has to deal with every little piece and part that breaks down forever on a home's windows or siding. I believe it's 20 years on doors, but it's a lot longer than most people consider reasonable. Most contractors only do a year, so they have 7 guys doing service, and there are a lot of customers that need service. So at any time, there's 200 to 300 open tickets for service. So they also have issues. They can't track all of the reasons for their service or the parts that they have. So I created this new solution for them. It's called Mend. I just brought it up on my laptop here. This is an admin account, so if you want to show or hide your toolbars, they're there. The splash screen is meant for an iPad. So here we are on iPad. I'm going to open up FileMaker Go. I'm going to tap Mend, my little cross band-aids. I like to use Touch ID for this because I want my guys to spend their time editing and dealing with issues in the field, not trying to remember their passwords. Also, for security's sake, I can't give them all 22-character password. Their thumb is better. So here we are on the splash screen. This is an administrator account, so it has the red Show Hide Toolbars button at the top. If you're logged in just as a normal everyday service tech, it's not going to show that button. You'll never see the toolbars. I don't want guys using the toolbars. I want them navigating with the buttons that I give them, so they only go to the layouts that I want them to go to. So I'm going to go ahead and hide those again. I'm going to hit Start. Now there's these buttons to navigate. We're going to do task-oriented navigation. So one of the tricky parts about the old system was that you had to know where you were going and what you were looking for, and the records were all based on job IDs. So if you're a customer, you might have 3 jobs. Well, if you attach a service to the wrong job, you might put the notes in the wrong place. So instead, we're gonna do it this new way. So I just hit Open New Service. It takes me to the customers page. So you're trying to figure out which customer you want to add the service to.
So the first thing that you probably notice is the little smiley faces on the left side. One of the things that the old system did not do very well is track customers' temperaments. So if a customer is really upset, we tend to try to put them at the top of the list. If they're a little bit less freaked out about what's going on, they say, hey, no problem, you can come by whenever, it's just a screen, it's for a window we don't really use very much. Whenever you get back out here is fine. Then we're going to put them a little bit further down on the list of priorities. So I'm going to change the one here for Richie and Ellen Samboro. So I just picked some rock stars. I'm going to change it to just unhappy. So now that unhappy, that little crying face is going to follow them through every single thing that we do after this. So now you notice that underneath Richie and Ellen Sambora, you have a $475 balance for this customer. You also have wood windows and siding as jobs number 1 and 2 in 2007, 2008. They were installed by Ray Charles and Doug Stanhope. That little list next to them, the button with the list, that is for, I'll just zoom in a little bit, these buttons over here. The round one with the list there is for services that are already existing, and then the plus is for ones that are new. So I'm going to add one that's new. So it's going to take me to, this is the action detail. So now with this action, you'll notice it has a created date, there's an action ID, it's a new service. If I hit up, it's going to take me back to the base ticket. Now, the first thing that I notice here is that there's all these icons. So there's the open folder on the top left. That means there's an open service for this customer. Now the red exclamation point there is for actions. The service is defined as a group of actions taken to satisfy a customer. And this is just a list of all the actions that we're going to have to satisfy Richie and Ellen. So the first one here is unscheduled. There's an exclamation point because the action is not scheduled, it hasn't been taken care of yet. Then there's 4 other icons. The first one is for tools. The second one is for parts orders. The third one is for parts returns. The fourth one is for causes. So I'm going to open up the first one and type in this at the top, first action. Okay, so then I'm going to go back up and it's going to follow that back up. So I'm going to add a second action because I know this is going to take 2 trips. An action is usually a trip taken to a customer's house with any number of employees, vehicles, tools, parts, or any other issue. So second action, okay, cool. So first and second action. Now that first action, what are we going to do with this? We have to assign employees. I'm going to swipe to the right. There's parts orders, parts returns, and causes of action, right? So as I swipe back and forth, the employees, those are the 4 things that we can add. And then if you go all the way to the right on the slide control, you also have the scheduling time. Now, if you're on an iPad, swiping is nice. If you're on a PC or a Mac, then you're going to probably use these buttons at the top that do the same thing, right? So you don't have to scroll all the way down and then click the little button at the bottom. So you'll also notice that when I swipe, these icons here that correspond to the 4 icons next to that exclamation point over here, right, these ones there, you'll notice those are there. So each one of those is affected by something that you change on this page. So let's say we want to add an employee. I'm a big fan of Willy Wonka, so the old school Willy Wonka, we'll add him. We'll add a vehicle. Let's say he's going to take the Great Glass Elevator this time. He's going to need a little help, so we'll give him an Oompa, and we'll give him a Loompa as well. Okay, so this Oompa is a little short, so I'm going to give him a little step ladder, and there we go. Now you'll also notice that there's the 72257. That's the UPC. That would just be blank if there wasn't one in there. I'm going to give him a step ladder as well. So, okay, great. You'll notice this little screwdriver is there. Screwdriver and wrench on both the action, the first action, and on the overall service itself. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those items. So if I remove one, it's not going to change the icon, but when I remove the second one, that icon should go back to NA, right? So all my tools are back. Now, probably not that important for a stepladder, but if you're sending out some expensive power tool, like a generator or something, you're probably going to want that back. You also might want to know where it is. And that's one of the other issues that we've had in the past is we loan a tool out, it goes into somebody's truck. A couple weeks later, we find out that we don't know where it is anymore, and we can't remember who took it last. So I'm just gonna, for giggles, I'm gonna add a level for the Oompa on the second one here. Now, if I want to, I can list the tools that he has just by looking there, but he's got a level on that one, so you can see there's both of them have the screwdriver. They have tools assigned. If I remove one here, so I'm going to take the stepladder off the first action again, you'll notice that the one up here in the top left corner is still there, because this action, the second action, it still has a tool assigned to it, but the first action doesn't. So we want to be able to look later on, we'll want to be able to use those top level icons to check where are my tools and whatnot. So I'm going to leave that how it is. So now back to this. So say we're going to add a part order here. Hit the little plus. Now again, you can scan from UPC, but if I do that now, it's going to turn off this recording and delete it. So I'm just going to use the catalog little book on the side. So the UPCs are 2.7E plus 1 whatever. So that's just the number that comes on the UPC. So you can search for those. You can sort. Right? You can search for a specific name. Right? Popcorn. Go. Found the popcorn. Show me all of them. You can add a new part as well, but that's going to ask me to add a photo, which will shut down my screen recording, or add a UPC, which is just another insert from device script step. So let's just go with the wheat thins for now. Okay, so you'll notice that this little cart right here has popped up, and that should correspond to that service order. On the top line statuses, your cart has popped up as well. Now, these are set up so that if you were to add a part to a second action, that you'd be able to just kind of like the tools. Say I want to move this order along, these drumsticks. Okay, cool. Well, there's no vendor selected for this. So that means that I can't order it from the field. So this is an example of, well, we took a picture of a part that we don't know what it is, and the guy in the field, he calls it one thing, the guy ordering calls it something else, the vendor calls it a third thing, and the guy who manufactures it calls it a fourth thing. So that slows down orders tremendously. So an administrator has to go back through, attach the part to a vendor, and that can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. But in version 2.0, there will be a join table for that. So, well, I guess there already is a join table. It'll just be accessible from a little bit of a card window. But let's go back to that first action, because I believe the part that we put in there was wheat thins. Now, you see how that says Nabisco right there? That's because we have the information for that vendor. Now, this, drumsticks are unknown. So we don't, that's an unknown vendor. So I'm just going to head back over here real quick to look at this part order. Now I can bring up the order detail. If I want to order it directly, then I can pop this open, call or email. So let's say I just want to email. Now I could, for each vendor, put together a form where it has a subject and a body and their particular ordering style. So it's not very difficult to do. Just depends on having real data in this rather than, dummy data. Also, of course, you can call, right? So let's pretend for a second that we called in the order, sent the order, mark it as sent, right? So what's that going to do? It's going to change our status there. It's not going to change our status at the top level. Why? Well, if I'm trying to clear out all of these actions for the service, what do I want to do? I want to make sure I have all the parts that I need done, and I only want to show the lowest level of status. So if I go back to this first action and I add another part order, let's say I'm going to go with caramel M&Ms this time, and I'm going to mark those as those are, right, the order was accepted. I'm going to put in an invoice number 3567. Say I spoke with Ted, right? Well, that's going to change, right? The part order has been accepted. So this action, it's still not ready to go, right? So the whole point of this is, if I'm going to schedule a time for a service guy to show up at the house, I want to make sure I have all the parts before I schedule it, right? And if I'm going to close a service, which is a group of actions, I need to make sure that all of those actions have all of those parts taken care of too. So there's a couple different layers here that help you keep track of everything. Now, additionally, you also have this returns. Now, returns is the same thing, but it's for for parts that need to be returned to their manufacturer or vendor. You'd be surprised how often we get the wrong color or the wrong size, or some other part of it just isn't really working for us. It's just a real problem. And right now there's really no way to track where those things go. Usually they just end up in the dumpster. It's like, oh, we ordered the wrong thing. Great. How much did it cost? We don't know. And where is it? I don't know that either. Did we try to return it? I don't know. Okay, well, how much did it cost us to do all that? I don't know that either. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to save some money here. So the way that you're going to add something to a return is by creating a cause of action. So this is probably the number one thing that this app is really designed to do. So it's designed to assign responsibility for different types of causes for these actions. So for example, I'm just going to filter to vendor items here, right? So let's say they delivered the wrong color, right? The wrong color of wheat thins. Open a return. Yes, please. So what's that going to do? It's going to give us a number. It's going to give us the opportunity to enter notes. We want red and blue party wheat. I don't even know if they make those, but right. There's also this little question mark here. The correct color was ordered, but the wrong color was delivered, right? And it has a picture just so you know that you're talking about that part. Now you'll also notice that this little square peg, zoomed in a little too hard there. You'll also notice that the icon changed to a square peg and a round hole. And if you zoom back over here, there's your returns, and you'll notice that first line, that where the wheat that used to be on the orders, has been removed. Now, this little parts, I'd say, well, why would you leave the little envelope flying around? Well, if you look here, you have statuses for part order rejected and wrong part received. You also have ones that are in field, located in warehouse, staged for install, right? So this is going to help you track where your pieces, where your parts are, and at what point of the process you realize they were wrong. So anyhow, if you want to mess with your return process, it also has its own statuses, right? So that you can track which returns are from where, and right? So that one's part returned, partially refunded, fully refunded. Right? So all these pieces are in here where you can change, say they gave us $15.95 back on the 26th, right? Okay. So, that's not right. Shipping date established. And mark that as fully refunded. So, okay, great. I'm going to have to update the way that works. So that's not showing the correct information there. So we have cause of action. Now for scheduling, go ahead and schedule this. I'm going to schedule it for the 15th. Actually, you know what? Let's schedule it for the 19th. Now, I'm not a real fan of those little radio flywheel, whatever you want to call them. I'd rather have a calendar. Maybe you guys can take care of that for me. So, but I also found that trying to type in a time is a pain in the neck. So you type in 9 a.m. and hit commit, it puts in 9 a.m. If you put in 9:30 a.m., it commits. If you put in 5 and hit commit, nothing happens because you haven't selected the right information. So 9:30 to 11:15 a.m. All right, we'll commit those. So next up, let's take a look at the calendars. So the calendars, this is Wednesday the 18th at 9:30 in the morning. Oh, I should probably put an end time that's after the start time real quick. I'll go back. First action, schedule, and let's put in 11:15 a.m. Commit. Okay. So back to the calendar. So I'm going to skip ahead a couple of weeks here. This is just good old-fashioned JavaScript. We'll forward one more week. Cool. There it is, scheduled. Right. So now the colors on the calendar, you can set them. So I'm going to jump back to the start page so I can show you underneath the master employees list here. I'm just going to set this guy. Let's do a lookup for his opening hex color picker page. Okay, let's change him to, we're going to change Willy Wonka to this nice little pink color. So F6B FD8. F6B FD8. F6B FD8. Go. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump back to that calendar that I was on. So you see he's been changed to pink for all these dates. Always nice when you have, a bunch of people coming in and out of your department. Now, we do, we usually hang on to service techs for 6 to 18 months before they move on or do something else. But I'm hoping that if we could get this right and it were easier to get the information, there was less screw ups and less repeated trips, we might be able to hang on to those guys for longer. So assigning them an iPad probably won't hurt. Now you also see this button here at the top. If I hit that, then it's going to go landscape mode. It's a little bit more readable. In the future, this also will have you'll be able to tap on an appointment and it'll bring up the details for the appointment. So I just haven't set the FMP URL script callbacks for this one yet. So, okay, so I'm going to jump over to parts orders. So here's our catalog. Our part catalog has each individual piece and part that we have. You can add and delete items, mark things as primary vendors, or discontinued or whatnot. So then you have part returns. Oh, actually, one more thing to show you on parts orders first. I'd show you how to add a part to the, what's it called? To the catalog, but if I do that, again, it's going to ask for a picture. It's going to ask for a UPC. This recording will be deleted. So here we got a bunch of different parts that we've ordered. This is our parts order list. So you can bring up, this one was returned. This one was returned. I'm just hitting the eye on the left side here, right? So you can sort, of course, by temperament, right? You can sort by manufacturer, and you can sort by date, right? So jump over to returns. You do very similar stuff here. sort by status, sort by temperament, sort by vendor, and then you can sort by either the return date, which is in red, or the expected date, which is in black. So one other thing that I want to point out real quick is that for service orders, we also have a service log. So this log is meant to help people who are administrating be able to see what's open and what's closed and what's going on with all these different parts and pieces and tools and trucks and what's up with everything. So you have your iconographic list, the temperament, overall actions, then the four for the four subsets that we went through per action. Now with this, you need to be able to sort for those too. I hit all the sort buttons there. So it's nice to have these little invisible pop-ups so you don't have to have a dozen buttons that look the same. And the idea with this is that if you need to sort by, say you're in the office Monday morning, there's just a storm, there's people that are very upset, right? You're going to hit those, right? And hit those ones first. Or say you're looking, okay, I need to catch up on my returns. I'm going to hit returns, and then it's going to group together all the ones that, okay, well, I have these 4 where there's parts that they're just starting the return order. I need to get those going. Or if you want to sort by causes, right? Okay, well, here's 2 services that don't have a cause attached to them, so the reporting's not going to work on the other end. So I'm going to go through and make sure that those are up to date. Now, there's also filters. Right now, there's only a filter for open services and then for all. So in the future, there will be filters for things like show me only the ones where the task that I'm doing, right? So one of the buttons you would put in here is parts or order parts, and it would just show you only the ones where you needed to order parts. Or tools out, right? Show you only the ones where there's tools out, and then you can dig around and figure out where they are. So I'm going to go up here, and then last up, this is the one that my boss likes the best. So now with this report, there's only 2 reports in here right now. So the overall one will be, and the service one aren't done yet. But one of the main reasons that he wanted this in the first place, he doesn't know how many times services are performed because of an incomplete installation. So you have a crew of guys go out and install 20 windows, and they make the same mistake on the first job, and they go install 15 more windows, they make 15 more mistakes on that job, and before you know it, you have somebody that just has to go around and clean up after them constantly. So it's a lot easier. I'm just going to hit OK. It's a lot easier if you can sort through all the different causes of action and then create reports like this where you can say, okay, this installer, that installer, here's a customer, Osborne, installed by Gordon Ramsay on the 16th of May. It's installed at SGD or sliding glass door, right? And then it lists out the services. So we had to make 2 trips. It cost us $6 for a part, right? Then Ray Charles, right? Probably wouldn't want your windows installed by Ray Charles. So great singer, wonderful music, wonderful on the piano, not really much for window installations. So 2 installations for Samboro and Bon Jovi, and it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trips we had to make, right? So obviously something that he really wanted. Then we also have one for vendors up here. So this vendor report, I haven't populated a whole heck of a lot of data in here yet, but you'll see that you'll recognize those little status icons, and of course the different types of errors that they can have. Like for example, vendor unknown, delivered incomplete order. So there's 4 different incomplete orders that were delivered, right? So
I'm going to jump back over to the PC for a minute here. I know you guys don't probably like the idea of people who develop on PCs, but hey, that's what all our customers use, right? So, uh, just wanted to show you some of the under the hood items that make this all possible. Now, probably the most important thing to look at here is the ER diagram. So the original ER diagram for the old solution. So I inherited this from somebody who built it many years ago. Somebody had no idea what they were doing. So everything in the old system was based around this leads table. So you generate a lead by knocking on a door, and then if they actually buy something, it creates a record in the sales table and the financing table and the project table. And it takes the job ID, which is a number. It's basically the primary key for the project table, and assigns that back to the lead. So it's really not set up in a great way. It only captures the last installer that way, and has the name, address, and phone number of that lead. So what happens when you sell the house? Well, the address is no longer attached to that customer. It's a new customer, but you didn't sell it to that customer. So the information all branching off of this one table, that's really not a good idea. What it should be is you have a customer, cool, you have a customer, there's a customer table. It has all the information there, and it has a job, right? There's a jobs table that connects through a customer ID. Now, a customer can have many jobs, right? So we want to make sure that we hold on to that very carefully. Customer is also only going to have one temperament. You remember how there was only one smiley face for the same guy, right? If I change it in one place, it changes it everywhere. Well, there you go. Temperament ID, temperament ID. So you guys understand how relational databases work, right? You've built all these. So so this job ID would go to parts and service. And there's only a single status for all those different actions, and it's just laughably incomplex. I guess it's way too simple, and it doesn't really relate very well. So the ERD for this guy, a little bit more complicated, right? But if you look at this, you have service orders, a group of actions taken to satisfy a customer. Service actions, a single trip to a customer's house with any number of employees, tool, vehicles, or parts. Then you have an employee action, a single instance of an employee being attached. Then you have join tables for vehicles and tools. You have lists of vehicles and tools. This cloud documents, that'll come up in a later version, but it's a planned expansion. You also have causes, right? So and if you're playing at home, you also have parts returns and parts orders, join tables for those, and then a catalog, and then your vendors. There's also an extended parts data table that I haven't set up yet. That's for that. And then your status icons. So this is all carefully put together with the intention of being able to relate all the data together correctly. Now, what that means under the hood is that you'll see the relationship graphs look like this, right? Classic anchor buoy style. Some of these buoys are a little like that one layout that has all those different things on it. It's got status icons. All of these are the same table, right? Status icon, status icon, status icon. All of them are related to the same table, but it's just all the different statuses. And then underneath, like this is top level statuses. And then for an action level status, actually no, these are the action level statuses, and then this is the top level statuses for the services. And behind that, for the services, you have jobs, customers, right, and temperament. So if you look at action ID off of this as well, it branches out in a bunch of different places. And those icons, again, parts return, status icons, vendors list, status icons. So that icons table gets referenced all over the place in the solution. So that's probably the most complex one, is just that one table up at the top, or that one layout up at the top. I prefer to have just one layout per thing like this, like the anchors. So parts orders, parts returns, service log itself, right? And then there's a couple of just entity list guys. So also your stereotypical cascading delete, right? You delete a service, you want to delete all the stuff underneath, just not the icons or the trucks or the part. Well, you don't want to delete things out of the catalog, you just want to delete the actions, like you want to delete the records off the join tables in between. So this is where it all happens. This whole thing has 20 tables. None of these tables have more than 25 fields. So pretty complex to get it all to plug together like that, but the solution that they were using has several hundred tables, and many of those tables have several thousand fields, which of course, if half of them are calculated, makes it run really slow. So hopefully this has been a fun experience for you guys checking it out. I'd appreciate any feedback that you have, or any advice. I almost forgot the scripts, right? So the one that I wanted to show you in here, right? So looking underneath, right? This is fun. So you got your typical execute SQL, right? Execute SQL is such a beautiful thing that you guys put in there. So I wanted to show you how that calendar works underneath. So all the calendar is it's just a what's it called? It's a web viewer, right? Got a web viewer, and this is something I picked up at DevCon 2018, right? You just have a couple lines of JavaScript, some data, so that script throws some information in the data, and it uses substitution in order to put it together into into the content for this web viewer. So it's pretty cool. At least I think it's really cool. So go ahead and check that out underneath as well. Some other little fun tricks that are in here. So let me see if there's anything else in here that's a real cool thing. What else did I do? I think that thing with the calendar is probably the only other real big thing, but you guys can poke around and figure out what's up. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour. If you want to go ahead and rate the submission or whatever you guys need to do in order to figure out what you need to figure out, give me a call or send me an email if you find something that you want clarified, or you find a bug. That'd be great to let me know. So I'm always trying to perfect this thing. I've only had about 120 hours to work on it. So let me know what you think. Thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.